Everyone, it's Alexis. I hope you guys are all doing well today. I'm gonna be doing a little demonstration today using a bunch of our new dies from chapter 3, but also just wanted to go through our color story with you today. If you're not familiar, our color story revolves around our assorted cardstock pack. So there's 20 colors in the pack. There's great pastels, there's nice bolds, there's a few neutral colors. There is a bunch of different making essentials that we have that then align back to that cardstock pack. So when we were developing our embossing powders, our glitters, our sequins and beads, we wanted those to be able to match up with our cardstock. Sometimes you just can't find the right shade of red or pink and you want your different essentials to match. So that's what we've done with our color story, is we've made sure that all of our essentials all go cohesively together in a color way. So for example, today I'm going to be using lavender dust. I've made this fun little summary card using all of our lavender dust products. So I've used our cardstock, our sequins and beads, our glitter, and you can't quite tell, but I've used our glitter embossing powder on the back panel. So there's obviously other making essentials within our color range that I haven't used on here. We also have sculpting foam and some felt pieces that also match with lavender dust. But the whole idea is that for every color in our cardstock pack, there are at least 1 to 3 items that match within our other making essentials, and we keep building it out and adding more and more to it, but it just makes it easier. It's like one-stop shopping. You can get everything you need at once, and you get stuff that looks nice together and complements itself. So I'm going to show you how I made this particular card. The first thing I want to show you, on top of the items, I'll talk about them as we're making the card, is this chapter 3 die called Folk Mask. I love all over patterns like this because you can create stencils with them. You can create this as a full die cut if you wanted to. But one trick that we often don't see very well explained sometimes is the fact that you can actually take these super intricate dies and use them to create an emboss. I love that. So I'm going to show you how I did that. In order to do that, I'm using our Emboss and Transfer set. So this has our impressions pad and a silicone mat, and we're going to take these two along with the die, and we're going to make a really beautiful embossed panel from a Thinlits die. So the first thing I'm going to do is, on any of your big shop machines, you're going to need to take out all of the different adapters and get down just to the particular layer that allows you to do embossing with Thinlits. Every single platform has those instructions on them. So for my Big Shot Plus, I'm down to the platform I need to be on. You're going to place one cutting pad in there. You're then going to place your die face up. I've taken my cardstock panel right here, but because I'm embossing cardstock, it's the same thing when we're embossing with our embossing folders. You're going to want to get it wet. I do both sides, especially with something this intricate. I really want my panel to have the fibers loosened up so that the panel embosses nice and deep without it cutting through. So then once you've put your paper on, you're going to put on the silicone rubber right there, and then you're going to put your impressions pad, and that's all you need. And then you're just going to run it through your machine. I would run it through twice just to really get a nice emboss. I think anything more than that, it tends to start cutting through the paper. And like I said, if it does start to cut through the paper, you just probably need to wet it a little bit more so that the fibers loosen up on the paper itself. And look at that. You get this really stunning emboss, and you can ink this. You could just leave it as is. You could cut it into panels and then separate them on a card, but I'm actually going to emboss this whole back panel. So I'll show that in just a minute. The first thing I need to do before that is I'm going to cut out my sentiment. So I'm just going to add back in my thin die adapter. Okay, so what I've done for this is I've taken a die set from our chapter 3 collection called Party Phrases, and I've got the hello sentiment, and then I've taken some lavender dust cardstock and put adhesive sheet on either side. And the reason is I'm going to use, for Thinlits dies that are super intricate, having it on the back side so that you can easily adhere it down is always a benefit. But one thing I like to do is when I'm going to apply glitter to a sentiment, I also like to add it to the front side, because then I don't have to add glue on, get it all messy. It just makes it easier if you've got adhesive sheet on both sides. So I've gotten everything I need out of my machine. I'm just going to move it out of the way real quick so we have more area to make. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I've got my adhesive sheets over here, is I've got my embossed panel. So this one's still a little wet. Normally you would set it off to the side to let it dry. This is the dried one that I'm going to work with for the rest of the make. And we have an embossing ink pad. This is a really simple technique that adds some really fun dimension and texture to any of your makes. You could also do something monochromatic, so you could choose a totally different color. I'm deciding to keep within the colorway. I'm going to use my Lavender Dust embossing ink and powder. And I'm just going to take the pad and I'm going to literally rub it across the emboss at the top. And you'll notice as you do this that it's going to take on the embossed edges and turn them a little bit darker. That lets you know that the ink is sticking to the embossed edges. If it gets down into the lower emboss or the debossed area, that's okay too, especially with these lighter pastel colors. It actually just ends up making the emboss look a little bit stronger. So normally I would take time and really just make sure that was well inked. But for the sake of brevity while we're filming, I'm just gonna pretend that I've really inked this well. I've got one already prepped. I'm just showing you how it works. So I'm just gonna add in my embossing powder and lavender dust and really just cover it up. I'm using my funnel tray to collect all the mess, and I'm just gonna dump this off. And you can see from the glitter that I've got a lot of good space in there that's been covered. Anything you've missed, what I would suggest is heat it up first and then go back in with your embossing ink and get all the areas that you missed perhaps. And then you can just keep going until you reach a level of coverage that you're happy with. So I'm gonna pour this all back in. I love these funnel trays. They make cleaning up after glitter and embossing ink so much easier. Okay, so I'm going to now get out my heat tool and heat set that emboss. So I would actually suggest, because this is such a large panel, getting your heat tool up and running, getting it nice and warm so that when you are ready to heat, it's nice and warmed up so that it'll actually heat first. So I've already done that prior to the video. So you would just keep going the entire panel, get it nice and heat set, and when you're done, you can see kind of up here it's set, it changes a little bit in the tone. This one I've prepped already with the glitter emboss already completely on the background. So the next thing I want to do is get my sentiment ready. So I'm going to bring back in my funnel tray. I'm going to bring in my sentiment. And what you're going to do with your sentiment is remove the front adhesive sheet. This will then be placed into the funnel tray where you can add in all the glitter. My little cutout pieces don't want to come out. Okay, so I'm gonna put that in there. And then I've got the Lavender Dust glitter, and I'm just gonna dump this on top of that. And then you'll just take the excess and dump it off. And then we'll put that away later, same way I did the embossing ink. So now I've got my Lavender Dust cardstock with the embossing powder on the back and my Lavender Dust glitter sentiment right here. And now I'm just gonna put it all together. So what I've done is I've already prepped a panel card. I'm using the Purple Dusk cardstock. I like that the tonal contrast, that they're in the same color family, but that they have a little bit of difference between the two colors. And I've prepped this panel with adhesive sheet, not adhesive sheet, sorry, foam tape. And then I'm just gonna lay that down. I find with embossed panels that the foam tape is actually the easiest way to adhere them down, because they have so many grooves that go up and down and every which way. It just makes it easier when you're trying to put them down and keep them down nice and flat. And then I've cut a piece of a white cardstock from our neutral pack, and I'm just gonna add some foam tape to the back of that real quick. And I'm gonna put this right in the center. Okay, so then I'm gonna peel off the back side of the adhesive sheet that's on here. And I'm gonna turn this around just so I can see which direction I'm putting this. And I'm just gonna center everything. The nice thing with adhesive sheets is you can kind of lightly lay something down and get it placed where you want it to be, and then go in. Normally I would burnish off this cardstock, not the cardstock, but the glitter, so that the excess glitter doesn't come off, but I wanted to show you how to make it. So then I've got our sequins and beads. So we have not all 20 colors in the sequins and beads yet, but we do have 10 and 3 additional colors in metallics. So we do have the Lavender Dust sequins and beads. So I'm just gonna select a few and put them on the card just to add that final touch. So I just like to go through and I'll add like a few dashes of glue, the larger ones for my larger sequins, just a couple different areas, fill it in. You can follow those little dots if you want. And then I'll just go through and add in some of the stars, and then some of the faceted circles. There's also like small ones in here that you can add on, so you have variation in size. And essentially you would just keep going. I'm not going to do the small ones because they take a little bit longer to get on there, but I think you get the idea. Once you add in all of those panels, or not panels, but all those sequins, you can end up with something like this, where you've got lots of little ones just to add in. Gives it a bunch of different looks and feel. You can customize it just how you want. But that's all I have for you today. Like I said, we have a ton of making essentials that match our assorted cardstock pack, and they make up what is our Sizzix color story. If you're interested in any of these items, please drop us a comment in the comment section, or any questions. We can lead you to any of the products if you're interested in them. I used all Lavender Dust products today, but we have lots of other colors that are available, and you can find them on Sizzix.com and Sizzix.co.uk. I'll see you guys again soon.